Before we get started, we'd like to point out this video is meant to act as a guide only. Installation will vary from one manufacturer to another. Nomura pistons should be installed according to the clearance specifications found in your OEM service manual for that application. That being said, additional bore clearance may be necessary for an engine which has been modified. Always have the piston available when boring any cylinder so the clearances can be exact. Double check the clearances before final assembly. When in doubt, consult with a local technician or repair facility. Piston orientation. It's important to orient the piston correctly when installing it into the engine. Two-stroke pistons may have an arrow or EX on top to identify the exhaust side of the piston, and IN identifies the intake side of the piston. Four-stroke pistons may have an IN on the top to identify the intake side of the piston. If there's no marking on top, look at the valve recesses on the dome. Intake valves are larger in diameter, so their dome cutouts will be larger and deeper as well. This is a simple and accurate method to identifying the intake side of the four-stroke piston. Piston rings. Nomura piston kits come with the piston individually wrapped, a set of OEM quality rings packed in their own box, a wrist pin, and circlips. It's a good idea to set all the components out ahead of time so they're organized and easy to find. When it comes time to install the rings, there can be a lot of confusion. One of our most frequently asked questions is, what do the markings on the piston rings mean? If you see any numbers or markings on the piston rings, they should always be facing upwards once installed. Two-stroke pistons will have one or two piston ring grooves. If your two-stroke piston engine has two ring grooves, install the ring which has a silver finish on the outer diameter into the top groove. This is the top compression ring. Now, four-stroke pistons will have the same two or three piston ring grooves. In general, the top compression ring will have a silver finish around the outer diameter, the middle ring will be all black, and the bottom oil ring will be made up of one expansion ring and two scraper rings. Ring gaps. Even though the rings are matched to specific piston and bore size, you will always need to check the ring end gap to ensure it fits within the OE specifications. To measure the ring gap, place the ring into the cylinder and check that the ring is flat inside the bore. Then use a feeler gauge to measure the gap where the ring comes together. In most cases, you won't need to adjust the gap. Note, this process does not apply to oil control rings. Installing the rings on a two-stroke engine. If there are any markings on the piston rings, they must be facing upwards when installed. Install the piston rings so the gap is aligned with the locating pins inside the ring grooves. Use two-stroke oil or assembly lube to lubricate the inside of the cylinder bore, the outside of the piston, the bearings, and the wrist pin. Installing rings on a four-stroke engine. If there are any markings on the piston rings, again, they must be facing upward when installed. Install the oil control ring on the piston first. Install the oil expander ring first, followed by the two scraper rings. Pay close attention to the two ends of the oil expander ring. They must not overlap. The two scraper ring gaps should be staggered at least 1 inch in both directions away from the expansion ring gap. One gap to the left of the expansion ring gap and the other to the right. Use oil or assembly lube to lubricate the inside of the cylinder bore, the outside of the piston, the bearings, and the wrist pin. When installing the circlips into the piston, we highly recommend placing a towel over the crankcase. This helps to reduce the chance of dropping a circlip inside. Carefully press the wrist pin into the piston, then carefully install the circlips without bending or distorting them. We recommend installing the circlips with the gap set to either the 6 o'clock or 12 o'clock position. The gap should not be aligned with the recess in the piston casting. You should now be prepared to install your new Nomura piston into your machine. We hope this video has been helpful. If you have additional questions, please reach out to us through our website at nomura.com/contact. You can also find technical information and other support on our website. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you on the trails soon.